Make sure everybody's. Let's see where Joel Osteen finally opened up his church in Texas. No comment. No, I don't say anything. Okay. Only took him a week to open up his church. I'm sorry, I ain't got no use for him. He's the Jim Baker of the 2000 era, in my opinion. I just don't. Okay, Hubert, shut up. They're not going to talk to you, so you might as well just talk math. We went over relative frequency. I went over cumulative, which was worthless. Okay. Page 314. Make sure you know how to read and interpret bar graphs, histograms, and pie charts. For instance, if I ask you how many people are in that group in figure 5.3, you should be able to tell me. Well, there's 4 in that first spot, or whatever. 4, how many students, whatever. 4, 7, 9, what was that, 3 and 2? And you should be able to add those up and get the total class. That's how you read a bar graph. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I think most of you had pre-algebra, and I think most of you know how to read a bar graph. So there's 4 A's in the group, 7 B's in the group, 9 C's in the group, 3 D's in the group. D is for ditch, like living in a ditch. And F is for failure. I just like to use the word failure. F, there's 2 F's, 2 failures, and there's 5 people going to live in a ditch in the future. Okay? That's how you read them. What's the difference between a histogram and a bar chart? Anybody know? It's ridiculous, but does anybody know? The histogram, those 5 bars right there, they're touching each other. That's the difference. So a bar graph and histogram is the same thing. Only take a vise, take your hands and squeeze those 5, whatever color those are. They look kind of maroon color, but I may be colorblind. I don't know. Mash them together where there's no space in between them. And it even says right here, bars do not touch for qualitative data categories. Okay? A histogram, this D and this C and this B and this A and this F, they're all squished together. You'll see it whenever we get to histogram, you'll see the difference. What should you be able to do with a pie chart? Well, let's say I give you 1,000, N is equal to $1,000, your paycheck per month, $1,000. Then how much do you spend on gas if gas is C? You spend $360 on gas because you take a percentage of that $1,000. 36% of 1,000 is $360. How much do you spend on food, which is B? $280. You got it? Again, most of you know how to do that because you've had classes. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, okay? But these are easy questions. These are gimme questions on the test. You know, I'll ask 1 or 2 of these just to give you some points on the test. Capiche? Make sure you can draw one. And I usually tell you to use Excel for that. There's another pie chart. No big deal. I consider myself an independent because I wouldn't give you 2 cents for either one of them. I think both of them have been going crazy. There's a histogram. See the difference? This is a line chart. And there's some, so write 317 down and maybe the definitions there. You need to put a star beside. That's 5C. 5E. I'm trying to get there, people. It's like 500 pages. Correlation and causality. How many Matrix fans we got in here? Any Matrix? The movie Matrix? In the second Matrix movie, they go into this restaurant, the French restaurant, and they sit down in front of this guy, and they say, "We need the key maker." And that guy starts to talk French accent, and he says, "Causality. I drink too much wine, I have to pee." Okay? I always thought that was funny. It's a funny line. I drink too much wine, I have to pee. Causality, correlation, cause and effect. All right? If you drink too much alcohol, you will pass out. Probably in a bad way, like bite your tongue as you're going down, you know, at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know. Another correlation that's not having to do with alcohol or anything else. What about the weight of a vehicle? What does the weight of the vehicle, the weight of a vehicle decrease? Must speed it stops, but what else does it decrease? Gas, mileage. Okay, so that's the correlation. And here you're going to be dealing with correlation, whether you have a correlation or not. There's 3 choices: yes, no, and no evidence. Okay, in other words, you can't tell. It's constant. Correlation exists when one variable goes higher with values of another variable. It's easier to show you in a graph. I'll show you in just a minute. And you tell this by scatter plots. Scatter plot is a graph. There we go. I like the Avengers. Well, I don't like them anymore. I don't like them anymore because before the election, Iron Man and Iron Man's sidekick was on this video telling people who they should vote for. And I really don't like that. I don't like people to tell you who to vote for because they think you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? I don't like people to say, okay, now you got a hat that's turned backwards, so you're ignorant. I need to tell you who to vote for because I'm better than you are. I don't like that. I don't care what side you're on. Anyway, so I don't watch the Avengers anymore. But the reason I always, there was a little part of me disliked the Avengers because of the 2 people that really shouldn't have been on the Avengers to begin with. And who are they? Yeah. I mean, a bullet to the head and they're dead. Why are they on the Avengers team? Somebody tell me that. You're stupid.
I'm just saying, there was one.
Oh, he takes his bow and arrow out and I'm like, really? That's all you got? That's all you got? A bow and arrow that collapses into a little suitcase. That's all you got?
There was one part in this scene where all those things are flying around. He shoots like 9 of them down in like 2 seconds. That was pretty cool. Just saying.
Yeah, that was very realistic.
I mean, I'm just saying that may be his superpower. It's not realistic for some oaf-looking guy to throw a 1,000-pound hammer across the room.
Oh yeah, it is. I've seen that before.
I mean, damn.
Yeah, I've seen that before. You hadn't seen that before.
It's not realistic for old boy to like, oh look, this shield deflects everything. Like,
Oh, God, don't even get me started on
you
Captain
shoot a tank bullet
America.
at me,
Captain
it's gonna
America
deflect
needs a
everything.
girlfriend.
He is useless.
Okay, he is useless. He needs a girlfriend.
Useless.
No, he never has had one. That's his problem. He needs a trashy. You know, remember that song, "Trashy Women"? He needs one. Yeah, bad. Anyway, he's just Richie Cunningham. Okay, he's Opie Cunningham. That's who he is. Remember Eddie Murphy, Opie Cunningham? He's Opie Cunningham. He's Opie Taylor and Richie Cunningham, and who else is perfect? Squished into one. I don't like him. I like Hulk. I like him because he just beats up people. And I like Thor, and I liked Iron Man, but I don't like him anymore. So anyway, Avatar, never watched it. That creeps me out. Those movies creep me out. I like Dark Knight.
The whole movie's green screen.
Yeah, it's just. I've never seen a Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Watch the first three and just disband that they even made anymore.
I think Johnny Depp is an exceptional actor.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to punch him in the face about 5 times, but in other words, he's a good actor. Okay, he is. He's a great actor. But I just don't like Pirates. He never have liked the movie since I was a kid.
Last two, don't even, until they didn't make them.
What, Pirates?
Yeah,
Yeah.
first three extreme ones. No, it's already come out.
Okay. The other ones. Oh, John Carter was a joke. Have y'all ever seen that movie? That was
terrible.
It's a movie. It was a stupid movie. John Carter. But anyway, is there a correlation? Well, not really, because you got all these up here. You got all these down here. There's really, you might could draw a line right up through here, but there's not really a correlation. The correlation is when you see a pattern. You see some type of indication, usually uphill, downhill, or straight. Next, positive correlation and negative correlation. There, here we go. Let me take my handy dandy virtual whiteboard, because I got to impress y'all with my ways. Come on. Eventually it'll come up. There we go. Handy dandy notebook. You can tell I got kids. My daughter lived on Blue's Clues until what's his name left. Yeah, and then she wouldn't watch it. That other guy, she didn't like him at all. Huh?
He did.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Go to the internet and pull him up. He's like living in New York and a manager of a band.
I read something about that.
He might be dead now.
Well, he might be dead
I
now.
thought he OD'd. I didn't.
Yeah, OD'd on coke. Yeah,
Okay.
he was snorting lines off of Blue's head.
He had that much energy. He probably was doing something. Like, most of the people that do those kid shows generally do drugs. It is a fact.
I think he was managing a rock band in New York. That's the last I read, but he's not dead.
You get Teletubbies. You think they would shooting up something?
Teletubbies. Somebody. I did not let my children watch
You think
Teletubbies.
they ain't going where they
And I
do
did
that
not
shit?
let. I did not let them watch Caillou because there was something wrong with that boy. That boy never did grow no hair. Okay, there's something wrong with that boy. And if there's something wrong with him, they need to tell it. They need to say, okay, this boy has this condition, and he was spoiled brat, and he should have been slapped across the face about 5 times. Okay, I'm through. I'm through venting. But my second one was SpongeBob. Well, the first one was SpongeBob too, but SpongeBob and Blue's Clues. The second one was just all SpongeBob. To this day, we record SpongeBob. I can tell you all the episodes. My favorite characters are Squidward and Plankton. That's my favorite.
SpongeBob was a kid with caps. You watch it as like an adult, you see so performance.
I know,
It's
but so
hilarious.
what?
It's hilarious.
It's hidden humor. So what? If you're a
Well, there's a
third
bunch
grader,
of
you don't
hidden
see
humor.
it.
No, you don't see it as a Huh?
Oh, and then you got these crazy people. Oh, they're depicting homosexuality. And I'm like, really? Really? Okay, what are they depicting with a whale that's the daughter of a crab? What are they predicting there? Okay, them people, these are those right-wing nuts. You got right-wing nuts and you got left-wing nuts. All right, what is this? Well, I always tell people, if you're always confused, which way do we read, left or right? Right, left or right. So, put your little car right here. And which way is it going? Uphill. So that's a positive correlation. This one? Going downhill. So that's a negative correlation. Simple as that. Now, a constant or a no correlation would be a horizontal line. And they'll give you an example of that probably in the homework, or we'll find one here in just a minute. Test question. That's one test question out of the 20% section of your test. That's, I always put one of those on there just to see how many of y'all will miss it. No correlation right there. Dang, it'll take you a straight line maker, a virtual straight line maker. There it is. It's close to horizontal. Okay? Yeah, good effort. Yep, I never would let them watch Teletubbies or Caillou.
I just like it. I wouldn't even watch the whole episode. I just liked it at the end. They got that big ass cookie.
Yeah,
That's what I was. Good. That's what I was so happy about. They gave him a cookie like this big, and I was just like, I want one of those. Don't give a damn about the rest of the show. It was wonderful. That show was.
So,
useless.
do you have other issues that you want to get out?
That show was useless besides that.
Yeah, it was useless.
So bad. And they had, I can't remember the name.
So was Caillou.
There was two funny.
A correlation may be a what? A coincidence. Most of the time it's not. Okay. Coincidence is not, my gas mileage is better because I drive a SUV. That's not going to be, usually the correlation is going to be valid. Explanation of a correlation. Don't think so. I wish we'd get to the math. I know why I didn't go into English. I can't handle definitions. Trying to teach definitions is about boring. I wouldn't do it.
People that can't write.
I wouldn't do it. I have enough people calling in that can't leave a enunciating voicemail. I can't. I just delete it. Of course, they don't sound that bad. They just are so, they can't enunciate their words. All their words run together, and I can't replicate that. So I just go. But have you ever listened to somebody on a voicemail and you can't tell what they're saying? That's one thing. The people that come up to my door and they knock on my door like this. I know them. When you knock on the door, you knock on the door. Oh, I'm sorry. I took medicine this morning. I'm not going to talk about those. And that's 5E. So 5E, all you got to know is correlation. Now, chapter 6. Now we're going to get into chapter 6. Chapter 6 is when you're going to start getting into the math. Capiche? Putting statistics to work. And you'll probably start with just the basics of mean, median, and mode, and normal distribution. There we go. Good gosh. How many of those pages are there? There we go. Now, that question right there, if I was to ask you what is the average, it's one of those loop things. I don't know what it's called, but it's in literature. It's called a loop, or in speech. If I was to ask you what the average is, you was to say, that's where you add all the numbers up, divide by how many numbers you got. And I say, what is that? And then you say, that's the average. And then I'll say, what is the average? And you'll say, that's where you add up all the numbers and divide by the numbers. And then I say, what is that? And you say, it's the mean. And I say, what is the mean? And you can't give me a definition. All right? The mean is basically, let's see. If I have a graph, and let's say it's kind of like that graph of A's, B's, C's, and D's. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I have a 4 A's and 8 B's. 4 A's and 8 B's. 12 C's. 2, 4, 6, 8. Two D's and no F's. Okay? And let's say I want the average. Well, what is the average? Well, the average is if I take this right here and I chop it off. Okay? And I chop it off and I put it right here. Because this is 4, 2, 4, and this is 4, 2, 4. Okay? And I need to change something. We have 2x. And then I take this number right here, this block, and I put it right here. What have I done? Well, let's erase what I've moved. What have I done? Come on, speak up. I've taken the variation out of it, and now everything is what? Level, right? It's called uniform. And that number right here is average. So somebody give me the definition of the average. It's a number that represents no what? Variation. Write it down. I guarantee you there's somebody in here that has sat through a whole semester of probability and didn't know the definition of the average. Because I always have somebody in my probability course that says, I didn't know that. And I know everybody takes probability in high school because of course you're in there because it's a watered down, it's a liberal arts course. Well, you were special. Shouldn't have hated it. Well, depending on if you sucked at algebra. If you sucked at algebra, you hated calculus.
I think I'm 89 in calculus was just like, I didn't need to take it nor I want to take it. It was just like extra work. Calculus
Just extra work, make it sound.
Calculus is just tedious, is all it is.
Just make it sound.
No, sorry, algebra you would tech class, but.
It's got all the animals in it. Got all the football players in it,
Yeah.
like I was.
A
Hey, coach, can I go across the street and get a donut? Yeah, go ahead.
I enjoy that, because college, you take the primary courses, and you take like transfer courses and things like that.
I still don't know how I passed high
You
school.
can take easy courses.
It was awful. Okay, so the average is the number that represents no variation. So what does that mean? That means that if you've got a class of 30 people and you have a class average on a test, then that number represents where there's no variation in the class. In other words, that's kind of a minimum grade that people should make. That's what it means. So let's say that Miss Slack is sitting in psychology, and let's say that she makes a 42 on a test, which is normal in psychology. And they put the grade on, they put the average on the board, and the average is a 40. Well, the class average is 40. That means that even though the 42 is still a terrible grade, it makes Miss Slack feel better about herself because the class average is 40. Now, is that going to help her grade? Not unless the psychology teacher takes that into effect and curves the grades. You got a 50-50 shot there, okay? Well, let's say that somebody else takes the test, Miss Brissy, and she makes a 2 on the test. And she knows she's a failure and she should quit the class and probably quit school, right? And live in the ditch, all right? Because she scored so much lower. Now, if somebody made a 36 and the class average is 40, then you can compare that to make like a B, all right? But again, it may not help your grade at all, it'll just make you feel better, okay? Depends on the teacher. So that's what the average is. It's the benchmark of the class or the set of data that you're dealing with, the benchmark. Okay? Everything is based on the average in statistics. And always write that down and always remember that. One of the most important numbers that you're going to be dealing with in any statistics is the average. Okay? Of course, how do you get the average? Y'all all know how to get the average. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. There it is. You add them up and divide by how many you got. Okay, they can give you a real fancy summation of x divided by n. And you can write that down and impress your friends, but all you do is add up the numbers and divide by how many numbers you have. Median. When I say the word median, what do you immediately think of? Middle of the road, with concrete barrier in the middle of the road. Okay? Well, I really don't think about that here, but I think about the number that's in the middle. Shut up. Okay? If anybody says the word median to you, the first thing you think of is that yellow concrete median in the middle of the road. That's what you think of. All right? Then you can translate that to the middle of the data. Now, in order for you to obtain the median, you have to have your data in what? Numerical order. So write that down. The median, you have to have in numerical order. Okay? If the median, if the n is odd, you have to take the average of the two middle numbers. If n is even, I'm sorry, that's past average. If n is even, you have to take the average of the two middle numbers. If n is odd, you just have to take the middle number. And you'll catch that when we do a couple of examples, because we're going to start doing some today. Mode. MO, most. Mode equals most. What shows up the most. And like I say, I'm not going to, okay, they're showing you what the mean is here. They're showing you where the middle is to balance all the data. That's where they're showing you there. I do a different approach. So if they're wrong, I'm right. The mode shows up most. Now you can have more than one mode. You can have several modes. Do not put 0 for the mode. Don't do that, because some smart aleck teacher will mark it wrong. Okay, put no mode, put non-applicable, put does not exist, or put the mode. If 25 shows up the most and 27 shows up the most, then your your mode is 25, 27. Okay. Hmm?
If you have like 525s and there's 427s,
5 is mode.
you have to have 5.
Yeah, the most. What shows up the most. Now they all show up 5 times, and you got to put each one of them there. Doesn't surprise me.
She told me that if it showed up more than the average number, like there was one, and someone showed up 3 times, one showed up 5 times, they were both voting.
No, that's not right.
But I did it just because that's what she said.
No, you need to write that teacher's down. You need to write that teacher's name down and send it to Better Business Bureau and say that you robbed. You didn't get your money's worth. All right, now find the mean, median, and mode of these right here. I'm gonna snip it. Snip it here. It's a crazy song. We were doing a play one time at the Anderson Community Theater, and this was just, you ever have a moment where you're with a bunch of people and something funny happens and it's just hilarious, and if you tell it to somebody, they won't think it's that funny? Well, this actually happened. We were doing Titanic, and which Titanic is more of a grown-up grown-up play, and it's kind of depressing. But anyway, we were all on stage, and all the adults were on stage at one time. And they were putting in a new sound system and a new booth for the sound. And they were testing it out, and one of them accidentally hit the CD that was in the CD was, you can dance if you want to, you can leave your fears behind, you know that song? Well, it came on. And at that point, the director was talking to each one of us, and we were in our positions. And when that song came on, everybody up there was from the 80s. Okay, everybody was up there with my age. And when that song cut on, everybody just started dancing, and it was just hilarious. And then when they turned it off, everybody quit and went back to what they were doing, and it was just hilarious. I don't know what brought that up, but anyway. Snippet good. That's it. Okay, y'all don't think it was that funny, but nobody ever does. You just had to be there. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. So they're just standing there, about 15 people on stage, and that song comes on, and it's just like all 15 of us just at the same time started dancing. And then when it went off, everybody stopped, and it was just like, okay, carry on. Okay, shut up. Where's my whiteboard? Where'd my whiteboard go? No, I don't want to do whiteboard. I want to do a spreadsheet. All right, so there we go. Let me reduce this down. You'll just have to bear with me a minute, because if I go back and forth, that'll drive y'all crazy. I'm doing it this way. There we go. All right, so 1.09 and 1.29 and 1.29, 1.35, 1.39, 1.49, 1.59, and 1.79. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is put them in order. So I'm going to highlight them. And data. And sort. Okay, I didn't know. Okay. Now, each one of these are called x's. All right. That's x of 1, x of 2, x of 3, x of 4, x of 5, x of 6, x of 7, and x of 8. So what is n equal to? 8. Now, I want to find the average. Now, the average is called the average, called mean, but most of all, it's called x bar. And x bar is the summation of all of those numbers divided by what? Divided by 8, Hubert. That's right, class. Thank you for the interaction. Makes class go by a whole lot faster when y'all interact. It'd be awful to be in a silent classroom. Median. Median is the average of those two numbers because n is what? Even. So that's going to be equal to the average of this number plus this number divided by 2. And then your mode is equal to 1.29. Y'all check me. Mode is really worthless. I still to this day don't know what the mode tells you. It just tells you how many shows up in this. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill you out with the rest of it. And I'm not even going to look at the book. Range, mid-range, and standard deviation. Now, as I told you, the most important number is what? I'm going to color it green because it's important. Somebody tell me what's the second most important number? Standard deviation. And we'll color that a different color green. Standard deviation is your second most important number. Now the range is your highest minus your lowest. Hit the range wrong on a test, what should you not do? You should not tell anybody. Everybody got that? The mid-range is the midpoint. I'll put that up there. Remember the midpoint back in algebra? Same thing. And that's your highest plus your what? Lowest divided by 2. Now, for the variance, you need to know what the formula is for the variance. The formula for the variance is equal to the summation of x minus x bar quantity squared divided by n minus 1. So somebody tell me, what do we have to do first to get our variance? We've got to subtract the mean from each one of our x's, Hubert. That's right, class. Because that's what it says, x minus x bar. I just told y'all that each one of these are called what? X This says X, and this says minus X bar. Everybody with me? Okay. So I'm going to call this X minus X bar. You need to draw a column just like I'm doing, so you don't get confused at home. And see if you get the same numbers. Go ahead and do that on your calculator. Have y'all tried oh my gosh. These? Oh my gosh. They're on sale at Walgreens, 2 for $5. And I got the two best ones there are. Peanut butter and caramel. Oh my gosh. They're good.
So there's five and the extra column, there's supposed
I'm sorry, I'm not asking questions right now. I'm off the clock. What'd you say?
the extra of your answers would have the different flags and things.
Because, yeah, X is 1.09 minus 1.41.
Okay.
Pay attention.
This is the part where I'm bad. This is the part where I'm bad at that.
Okay, just quit.
This is showing like your distance from the line and all that.
Yep. Your sister-in-law has told you that I do go on with the food system.
Yeah. I'm having to learn how to do it. That's really sarcastic, and I don't want to
You
do
take
it.
everything unless it's the heart.
I'm getting better.
Okay.
Now, but
Well, I'm very sarcastic and very
yeah, she told me
foolishness.
you were really
I'm very sarcastic when it comes to common sense things. You know, I'm sorry, but some of these people we got walking around procreating, it's depressing. It is. It's really depressing.
I have problems. I just my mom wants to have one.
Yeah, well, that's normal, especially the younger you are. That's normal. Okay, my mother has my color twice. I don't have to get this. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'm in class. I'll call you back. All right, bye-bye. That was not an emergency. All right, now what? What does this say? After we subtract X minus X bar, what are we supposed to do? Okay, so right here I'm going to say X minus X bar quantity squared. So this number, I'm going to square that number. Excuse me. And copy that down. Now make sure you get these numbers in your third column. You need to write a third column, and you need to try to get these numbers. Because you're going to forget when you get home. Now what does the What does the formula say you do with x minus x bar quantity squared? What does that funky looking E mean? Huh? Sum, meaning you do what? Add them all up. So, the numerator of this formula is 0.3184. What is n? Is 8, right? What's 8 minus 1? And whatever that is, that gives you your variance. No coughing in class. Okay. You want some water? I got a squishy bottle. Now, is that what y'all got? Okay, now watch this now. I'm fixing to get the standard deviation. The standard deviation is the square root of the variance. So I'm going to raise the variance to the 1/2 power. And that's your standard deviation. Now make sure you get those numbers in your calculator. And make sure you got everything written down in your notes. No, I don't know what to do. No yawning in class. Now, the reason you have the mean and standard deviation is the mean goes in the middle of your normal distribution curve. And on the right-hand side, you add the standard deviation. And you carry it out 2 or 3 places. Now, if I add on the right-hand side, what do I do on the left-hand side? Subtract. So, equals the mean minus standard deviation. What? As many as you want. Yep. Now we're going to get into the empirical rule here in just a second. But I want to make sure everybody understands what I did here, okay? So you need to put in your notes, the mean always goes in the middle. And then the standard deviation is added on the right and subtracted on the left. That's why I've got these 2 numbers highlighted in green. Now, for those of you that have a book, oh yeah, this book doesn't call it the empirical rule because y'all are too stupid to understand the empirical rule. So it's called the 99.76634 rule. It's in the book like that. I'm serious. Y'all don't believe me? I'm serious. I thought this was the dumbest thing. Let me see if I can find it because I don't know if y'all got a book. If somebody can find it, that'd be great. But let me see if I can find it. Coming up on it. Oh, I might stick it. Should be right in here. Standard deviation, because we're in this section. There it is. Now tell me, what's easier for y'all to remember? The empirical rule or the 68, 95, 99.7 rule? Oh, no, y'all can't use empirical because y'all not smart enough. You have to call it this. Now, what does that tell you as far as your book goes? I'm sorry, but that should be offensive.
That's like, I don't really take that as offensive. If someone comes up and says that to me, and I'm just going to look at it and be like, that's a bunch of numbers, and they say empirical, and I'll be like, okay, I'm talking about it.
I just think it's offensive. And they do this throughout the whole book, not just this section. They do it throughout the whole book. When we get to the business end and we start doing amortization formulas, they'll rewrite the formula because you're not smart enough to know that T means years. T, time, means years. So they put Y in because you ain't got sense enough to know the time. You ain't had any chemistry or biology classes, so you don't know that lowercase t is equal to time and uppercase T is equal to temperature. You don't know that. I'm sorry, but I don't like this book. So anyway, look at this. Now this is a test question, and it's also, if you don't understand this, you're not going to understand the next of this unit or the next unit. So the empirical rule is, it's kind of like fractions. If you don't learn how to do fractions in basic math, are you going to suck at algebra? Yes. Okay, if you don't learn this empirical rule, you're not going to understand the rest of this unit and the next unit. So make sure you understand the empirical rule. What does it say? It says that within two standard deviations, 95% is going to fall within two standard deviations. Outside of two standard deviations is 2.5 or 5%. Okay? Question. All right, I'm going to stop it there because it's a good place to stop, and plus I have to do the video before they bash down the door. So I need to get out at least 5 minutes early so I can do the video. So let me go do let me turn this off.